Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. Today I'll be showing you guys how to make this beautiful top with keyhole flare sleeves. Okay, so let's just jump straight into the tutorial. First of all, I'll be needing the length of my blouse. The length of my blouse is, I'm using just 1 yard for this top because the kid I'm making this for is really small, really thin, and I think she's about 12 years old. Okay, so I'll be using just 1 yard for this whole tutorial. All right, so I just went ahead to take the length that I need plus my seam allowances for the shoulder and then the bottom part, and now I use the hip. Okay, the biggest part of the body, that is the hip, and also I added 2.5 inches for the seam allowance, and I have folded my fabric into two. All right, so I am cutting this out for the front. All right, so we are going to be using this to cut for the back as well. Okay, so just like that, we are going to place this on the back 1 inches away. That is 1 inches away because the back needs to have a zipper allowance. Okay, so just place this on this like that and arrange it nicely, and then as you can see it's 1 inch apart. Okay, so just go ahead and adjust this to make sure that 1 inch, and then you cut this out. All right. Alright, so now what do we do with this? I'll just go ahead and draft my normal basic bodice pattern on this blouse here. So I am quickly marking my shoulder line like that, and I'm going to be marking the vertical measurement, that is from the bust to the shoulder to the bust, and the shoulder to the waist, and shoulder to my hip. Okay, or the top length, which is 17.5 inches. Right, so that is it. Now I'll go ahead and connect this point into a straight line. All right, so the next thing is to take the neck width, all right, of 2.5 inches and the depth of 2.5 inches. Okay, and then we just connect this. I'm going to be cutting the same neckline for the back panel as well. So the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to be marking half of my shoulder measurement there. Okay, so that is half plus half inches for sewing allowance. Okay, so I'll just go ahead and transfer the same shoulder measurement onto the chest line like that, and I'm going to be creating my shoulder slant. Okay, so I came down by just half inches and I've connected this to the nape of my neck. All right, so right from the shoulder slant I'm going to be marking 4.5 inches for the armhole. Okay, so after this I'll just go ahead and connect this and create the armhole line. All right, so after that I'm going to come out by just a half inch and I'll connect this to create my front armhole, and then I'll do the same thing for the back armhole. Okay, now pardon me if my free hand is not straight. All right, so the next thing to do is to mark quarter of the bust measurement that I am using. I am using a bust measurement of 26 inches. All right, so quarter, half is 13 and quarter will be 6.5 inches. So I'll just go ahead and mark 6.5 inches there like that, and the same on the chest line, and also 6 inches, that is 24 divided by 4 for the waist part, and then I'm going to be adding 1 inch for the darts. Okay, so 28 divided by 4 will definitely give me 7 inches, and also my allowance of 2 inches. Okay, so the next thing is to mark my allowance like I am doing, and I'm going to be connecting this, and then the next thing is we take out our dart. Okay, so now I'm going to be marking 2.5 inches plus half inches of seam allowance. All right, and I am going to go ahead and mark the same thing on my chest line and on my hip line, like that. Okay, so I'm going to be connecting this into a straight line, and after this I'll just take in my dart at half inch on both sides, and then I'll connect straight to the bust line, like that, and then like that. Okay, so for the hip I'm going to come up by 2 inches. Okay, like that, and I'm going to be connecting this to my waistline. So guys, that is it. Now the next thing I'm going to do is add my shoulder allowance. All right, so after this the next thing that we'll do is to cut it out starting from the bottom part. Okay, so after this I'll just go ahead and separate the front armhole and then break the front armhole out as well, and then split the zip part at the back. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and transfer my dart onto all the parts. Okay, thing is to cut the half circle sleeve. Okay, so fold your fabric into four and then fold it also like I have done. Okay, so I'm going to come down by 1 inch and then I'll connect, and I'm going to take the length of 6 inches. All right, so right from there I'm taking 6 inches plus half-inches sewing allowance. All right, so I'm just going to bring this out and then cut. Okay, so after this I'm just going to go ahead and then cut the same thing for the other side. Okay, now I'll split this open after cutting it out. Okay, after cutting the other part out. So guys, done cutting the other sleeve out, and now the next thing we are going to do is I'm going to show you how to create the keyhole around the armhole area. Okay, so mark 2 inches right from the shoulder allowance down, like that. Okay, so after that just pick out your flare and arrange this. Okay, either right sides facing each other or wrong sides facing each other, however way you want to arrange it, it's all cool. Okay, so just go ahead and fold this well, and then we are going to be placing our armhole starting from the 2 inches mark that we came down by onto our flare, like that. Okay, then I'm going to be marking this out for my front armhole, and I'm going to go ahead and trace my back armhole too using the same method. So I am going to come down from my shoulder allowance by 2 inches. Okay, and I'm going to connect and place this like that, and I'm going to draw this out like I did for the front armhole. Okay, so just go ahead and blend this to meet the front armhole, and then we cut this out. Okay, so you go ahead and then separate this and then make sure that it is right sides facing each other or wrong sides facing each other. Alright, so when they are facing each other like that, you bring out your front armhole. So guys, we are going to be creating a ruffle or a gathering effect around the sleeve area. Okay, so just like that, I'm going to be gathering this part like so, and then I'll do the same thing for this part as well. Okay, now the next thing is to cut our facing for the front and then the back panel. So I folded my fabric into two like that, and I am going to be cutting for the back panel. Okay, so place it onto the panel, the folded material like that, and then make sure that they are aligning perfectly before you cut out. Okay, so the next thing is to just go ahead and cut this out. Remove the, so guys, I'm cutting the both the neckline and the armhole together. Okay, I'm not going to be cutting them separately, but I'm cutting them together, and the length is as long as 7 inches because it needs to cover the bust area a bit. Okay, so for the front panel, I couldn't get enough of the material, so I am going to be joining the facing, okay, in front there, that is the center front of the face, and I'm going to be joining by half an inch on this side before attaching the neckline. Okay, so guys, the next thing is to attach our facing just on the neckline, not the armhole. All right, so right sides facing each other, match the necklines like so and then so. So we are going to be taking only the necklines out, not the armhole area. So I'll do the same thing to this one, and after that I'm going to fold in all my panels, and I'll be taking in the dart. I'll be sewing the dart as well. And also for the front panel, all right, remember that I will be joining the center front. Okay, I left 0.5 inch seam allowance there before I'll attach the necklines for the front as well. So after that, I'll take in my dart for this and then the sleeve. All right, so what I am going to do to the sleeve is I'm going to be turning this out with my bio strip, and I'm going to be running a straight stitch for the ruffling effect. Okay, so guys, I am done, and I've ironed my panels neatly, and I've also taken in my zip allowance, and I've taken in the neckline as well, and also the zip allowance. Okay, so that for the front panel I did the same thing. Okay, I've already sewn my necklines and my darts. All right, so for the sleeves as well, I am done with sewing and turning with a bias like that, and I have run a straight stitch, that is a loose stitch, okay, which is going to help me pull out the ruffles when I am ready. Okay, so guys, the next thing is to take our sleeve and then pull out the ruffles and then create that gathering effect. I need at about 7 inches of length because I don't want it too tight around the shoulder area. Okay, so I'm going to pull this out to make sure that I have 7 inches including my sewing allowance. Okay, so I have 7 inches. All right, I am going to go ahead and secure this stitch right now. So now the next thing is to do this other sleeve, and when I am done, I'm going to be using this bias strip, which I did not use later. I managed to get some of the fabric and then cut out the bias, and I used it for the covering. Okay, so what I did was I ignored the bias strip and I cut 2 inches of fabric in a diagonal manner to give me that elasticity that I want. Okay, so I went ahead to cut 2 inches of width, and then the length is not like really important right now because I had excess that I cut off later. Okay, so just cut off the excess like that, and now we are done with the sleeve. Okay, so we'll just set this aside and then move to the basic top, okay, or the bodice. All right, so for the back panel right now, we are going to be attaching our zipper, right? So I have an in-depth tutorial on how to insert this kind of zipper. Okay, this type of zipper is very simple to insert. Okay, so I'll provide the link in the descriptive box so that you guys check that out, and then I'll come back and show you the outcome. So I am done with fixing the zipper as well. So the next thing is to join my shoulder. Okay, so we are going to be joining the shoulder. Okay, so front panel versus the back panel, and then the yoke of the front panel versus the yoke of the back panel. So you match them like that and make sure that the center line is aligning properly before you pin. All right, so I am going to be doing the same thing. So you mark the front and the back panel of the main fabric, and then you also match the front and back panel of the facing that we cut out. Okay, so with this we are going to just go ahead and then sew. Okay, using our shoulder stitch allowance that we left 0.5 inches, we're going to sew this, and also we'll sew this as well. All right, so guys, I'm done, and as you can see, I have opened the seams and pressed it, and also pressed it to lie flat. All right, so the next thing is to go ahead and then attach the flat sleeves that we have already made. Okay, remember that we came down by 2 inches, but I think my markings that I did has cleared out, so I'm just going to go ahead and then repeat the same markings. All right, so why I'm creating this is to create that keyhole effect around the armhole area. Okay, so you mark down 2 inches. If you prefer, you can mark down 1 inch, 1.5 inches, whatever you prefer. Okay, so we are just going to attach the sleeve right now. So make sure you turn it to the wrong side. You open the yoke, open the facing. Okay, do not attach the facing to this when you are sewing the armhole. Okay, just lift up the facing like I did, and then match the front armhole to the front panel, and then we are going to pin this. So guys, after pinning this, I'm going to sew using a 1/2 inch. Okay, so I'm going to be matching the front, the back, yeah, the front panel rather, to the front armhole like that. Okay, so you should start from that 2 inches mark that we came down by. Okay, so start by that 2 inches mark and then pin this throughout. Okay, so after this, you just go ahead and do the same thing for the other side. So I just went ahead to match like I did for the other side. Yes, so after this, we just take it to our machine and we are going to be sewing using a 1/2 inch stitch allowance like that, and then I'll come back and show you guys the next step to take. Okay, so guys, I'm done pinning right now and I'm going to stitch this. Okay, so I am done with stitching, and now the next thing that we are going to be doing is we're going to be cleaning off the shoulder area. Okay, remember that we added 1/2 inch allowance to the shoulder area. Now we are going to be using the facing to turn in the armhole, okay, to create a neat finishing. All right, so the what you want to know is if you don't have zipper that opens all the way through to the end, you'd have to do all of it before fixing your zipper. Okay, you have to turn and clean the armhole area first before you fix your zipper. All right, but in this case I have the zipper that opens all the way through, so that was why I fixed my zipper before anything else. So just tuck the flare, tuck it in like that, and then lift up your facing for the armhole and then match shoulder to shoulder. Okay, so once you match the shoulder to shoulder, make sure the seam lines are aligning properly before you pin. Okay, so make sure that you don't pin the flare or you don't sew on the flare. Okay, so tuck it in properly and then pin it up. Okay, so guys, keep pinning and make sure that your flare is safely away from the pin. Okay, and make sure that when you take it to your machine and you're stitching, you don't stitch on the flare that you've tucked in. Okay, so I'm going to do the same thing for the other side. I know this looks a whole lot like it looks confusing and all, but just follow my instruction. Okay, tuck the flare in, lift the armhole facing, and then match it to the shoulder facing, all right, or the armhole facing for the main fabric, the armhole fabric. Okay, and then pin this up. All right, so just like I'm doing, and make sure that your flare is safely away from the pinnings. Okay, so at this point guys, my lightning got really bad, and that is the result of what I have right now, but I hope you guys can see what is going on. So guys, I am done stitching this, and now I'm going to bring it back into position. Okay, so I'm going to be pulling the zip area out. Okay, right from the center, right from the front part. All right, so from the front part I'm going to be pulling out the back panel. All right, so guys, once I am done, I'll just go ahead and then turn the other side out. Okay, so make sure that you pull it right from the front panel. Okay, so you pull this out like that, and once you're done, you have a very beautiful keyhole, okay, around the armhole area. So this is how it looks. Okay, you see, it looks beautiful. That's how it looks. Okay, so at this point, if you don't have a zip that opens, you need to fix your zipper at this point. Okay, but I've already fixed my zipper and opened it all the way through. So if you're using this kind of zipper, then you have no problem. Alright, so the next thing is just to align this properly, iron this out, and then the next thing is we are going to be taking out our measurement. Alright, and guys, mind you, I've already hemmed the bottom part of this before attaching my zipper. Okay, so right now I'm going to be marking half of the measurements because our fabric is now folded into two. So I'm going to be marking half of the measurement, and I'm going to be placing quarter of it using my center front as a guideline. Okay, so just like I'm doing, using my center front as a guideline, I'm going to be marking both sides. Okay, and taking down the waist measurement as well. So now for the hip area, I'm going to do the same thing using my center front as the guideline. Okay, so that it will create a good balancing. So the next thing right now is just to connect these points together and take it to our machine to stitch. Okay, so guys, I am done with this blouse, and as you can see, it looks so beautiful. At this point, if you haven't subscribed yet, please subscribe and also turn on your notification bell. I post sewing tutorials every week, so make sure that you come back for more. Make sure that you give this video a thumbs up as well. See you in my next tutorial.